Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy.
No, I just hit that fly so hard he had to stop and take a rest.
He's like, oh, deets! Yes. Wikipedia's new colors. Try dark today.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Look at this cute baby.
I know. Such a baby! What a baby. We're so privileged. We're so blessed.
We are.
So blessed. 2 babies.
2 very cute babies.
Yeah, one's a rascal and the other one will be a rascal before you know it.
That's true.
I was telling your dad, like, how they're going to have to transition from not having the baby-proof to baby-proofing with Joel. But like us, we're just going from one baby to the next. So it'll be very easy.
They should just have another baby.
I know, right?
I feel like Mom Loki would want another one.
Do you know? Now that she has a baby?
No, she would. Like, if it weren't for her health issues that she has, she would totally have another one, I think. Yeah. Crazy. Why did we come from such crazy people?
I don't know.
We are the spawn of crazies.
It's true. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Cuckoo. But with that said, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of Good Film Hunting. I'm your host, James Scott, and with me is my co-host,
Savannah Scott.
Oh, she said it. She knew it. She got the cue.
She did.
And there wasn't a pause.
No.
Thank you all for joining us. We are going to be talking about a very long movie tonight. Hopefully that does not mean our review will be quite that long. Because that would be a long review. That would be a very long review. And it's already 11 at night, so no, we're not going to do that.
Nobody has time to listen to a 3-hour movie review.
No. With that said, Savannah, what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about Oppenheimer.
Or, better known as...
Oppenheimer.
Or...
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, Oppenheimer. Sorry.
As someone we know once called it, Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Yes, that is funny. No.
That's a creative use of vowels.
It's true. It's a bit of a hard name to say. You look at it, and if you don't know, you're just like,
I mean, I definitely called it Oppenheimer until I finally was like, okay, fine, it's Oppenheimer.
I think I called it Oppenheimer, too. There was like, I said Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer. I'm not sure why.
Is he German?
No, he's Jewish.
Oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wonder if there is a little bit of German in him.
Yeah, because that last name sounds kind of German.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a Jew, but also German. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. But before we dive into our in-depth take on the film Oppenheimer, I'm going to give a brief breakdown of this episode. Quick, not warning, but note. Once again, we're holding our sleeping baby. So if you hear grunts that come out of nowhere that I wasn't able to edit out, that is the baby. And no one's complaining about baby grunts, as we established last time. But I just thought I'd give that caveat. So yes, to break down our episode structure, I've got a list of facts for Savannah about this movie that I'll go ahead and tell her. Most of them she will not know. We will share our general spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. Then we'll share our favorite moment of the movie. Savannah's going to do a 5-minute plot recap, which this one is going to be a doozy to do.
And I don't know if I could even do it. Like,
I'm sure you
I
can.
don't really...
You're going to try. You're going to try at least.
No.
We'll see what happens. And then we'll go through our rating system. That we have 4 categories that we'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5. We'll share our overall rating, opinion at the end, and watch another movie at some other point in time. Definitely not tonight. Not even conceivable. Not an option. I just want to start about this movie. I'm very excited to talk about it because I thought we'd do a review of it when we were like in our early stages last year, because it's almost been a year. And like, as I was telling you, we didn't really talk about it that much.
No, we
like,
didn't.
We just watched it. We shared a few very brief pleasantries, and then we kind of moved on.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, now that we've had a second time to watch it and really digest what was happening, what our thoughts are.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it too.
All right, so let's go into this. Savannah, are you ready for some facts?
Yes.
So naturally, with any historical film, there's going to be a lot of facts that you kind of have to weed through. And there were a lot about this one, and it was difficult to choose what I wanted to share with you. So here is what I went ahead and chose. This film was released July 21st, 2023, so little over a year now. It was directed by the one and only Christopher Nolan, so we're very familiar with his work at this point.
Even though we haven't really reviewed any of his movies.
No, because
This is the first Nolan movie?
This is the first Nolan movie. Wow.
Oh.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
How special.
I know.
The film itself was written solely by Christopher Nolan. This is one of the few projects that he's written all by himself, which I think includes Tenet and Memento and Inception. Those are 4. Oh, and Following, his first film. So I guess he's written 5 of his own films all by himself.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. This film is based off the book called American Prometheus. And American Prometheus is an idea that comes up a lot in the movie. The film was distributed by Universal Pictures, which makes this the first film since Insomnia that was not released by Warner Brothers, as far as movies directed by Christopher Nolan. So that's Insomnia, all the Batman movies, pretty much everything.
So this is the first one not interesting?
The reason for that was Nolan split with Warner Brothers after Tenet's release due to some issues. Tenet was the movie that, I think Tenet and maybe a couple others, but specifically Tenet was the one that was released in the middle of COVID that theaters were kind of like hooking themselves on. Like, if this movie does really good, then we know we're safe. And if it doesn't do well in the box office, we kind of know. Because it's Christopher Nolan. And it did okay. So Warner Brothers decided, okay, so we're going to have theatrical and stream releases of our films all at once. Which is fine. Nolan has agreed that wasn't necessarily a bad idea. The issue was they didn't talk to any directors. They didn't actors, anybody. They just did it. And didn't tell anybody they were going to do it. And so it ticked off a lot of people.
Yeah,
and he was one of them. And he went, well, if you're going to do this, I don't know what you're going to do in the future. So no, thank you.
Yeah, wow.
So after that, he then approached many studios for his next project. The big issue with most of them he approached is they were all pushing streaming too much, and he's very much about big screen theatrical experiences, and most of them aren't going to cater towards that.
Yeah.
So Universal was one that agreed to quite a few of his terms, actually. Many studios did want to work with him because they know that, he's just an iconic name, so people are going to pay money. So Universal did secure him with this next film. They agreed to a $100 million budget.
Think of all the orphans in the world who could feed with that money.
It's true, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with this money,
That's true.
where it's going. And they also agreed to give Nolan 20% of the movie's initial gross, which I think includes the first 3 weeks, and no final number has ever been released, but people estimate that his final paycheck for this was $100 million.
Wow.
Which is pretty darn good.
Oh, shout out to him.
I know. And Universal also agreed to allow this film to have a 95 to 120 day runtime in theaters. And I think it got the 120 days because it did so well.
Oh.
So that was fun.
Yeah, shout out to whoever started the Barbenheimer thing, because that was probably why this movie did as good as it did.
I know, right? I mean, possibly. That probably elevated it for sure. I think people had a feeling this one would do well regardless, but I'm sure Barbie coming alongside definitely helped it.
I doubt it was Barbie being there so much as just the fact that there was a hype about it.
That's true, just the Barbenheimer hype. That's fair. This film has a runtime of 180 minutes, which makes it exactly 3 hours long. This film was one of the few in recent, most films are shot digitally. This one was done on actual film. And all said and done, the final cut of the movie, not including extra footage they didn't use, which would be a lot. The final cut of this movie was 11 miles long.
Wow.
So I remember hearing someone once doing the math like, well, if someone walks about an average of this miles per, hour, and this movie's 3 hours, you can walk the length of this movie.
That's crazy.
It's like, that's kind of weird, but okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. As established, this has a budget of $100 million, which is pretty good considering its scope. Like,
yeah, it's definitely not as high as some movies.
Definitely not like Dune Part 2, right? It's not as like refined. But like considering the cast they had in this, it's very impressive. And I actually learned something interesting about some of the actors, which I'll share later on regarding that budget. This had a box office of $977 million.
Wow.
So close to $1 billion.
Wow.
And I really hope that like one day it does get $1 billion, because that'd be kind of cool, because these are all the records it's broken. This is the highest grossing non-Batman Nolan movie. This is the highest grossing World War II movie, which passed Dunkirk, which was also directed by Christopher Nolan.
Wow.
It's the highest grossing biopic of all time.
Really?
And it's the second highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, after Joker.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting. And imagine if it did like get $1 billion. Like then it'd be like the first World War II movie to have $1 billion, the first biopic to be $1 billion. Like that'd been cool.
Yeah.
So maybe one day, if it has a re-release.
No, that's crazy.
The score was done by Ludwig Göransson, who also did Tenet for Nolan. As we know, this stars Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, Emily Blunt as Kitty Oppenheimer, Matt Damon as General Groves, Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss, Florence Pugh as Jean Tatlock, Kenneth Branagh as Niels Bohr, and then it's got Jason Clarke as Roger Robb. Jason Clarke was from, the reason I mention his name is because he was in Dawn of Planet of the Apes as Malcolm. He was the really intense guy in the interrogation scene.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I thought he did a really good job as far as like acting went in this film.
Yeah.
And also stars a cameo of Gary Oldman as President Truman. And I've mentioned that before.
Was he wearing like a lot of prosthetics or something?
Not a whole lot. I think he was a little more filled out because of some previous film works he had done.
Oh.
But I actually looked at a photo of President Truman and Gary Oldman side by side as Gary Oldman in this film, and they actually look pretty identical, which was really interesting.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, I don't know if I know what President Truman looks like. I don't think I've ever seen a picture of him, because he's not like one of the more talked about presidents.
Yeah.
Considering, he was in charge of dropping 2 bombs on Japan.
Wait, is it Harry Truman?
Yeah.
Keep talking.
As far as development for this film goes, a film was in talks for a long time about doing one on Oppenheimer, or based off the book American Prometheus. But no one felt that they could tackle it because it was just such a large topic to delve into. And this was the first Nolan script written in the first person, and one of the few that's ever been written in the first person. Meaning, like, instead of said character walks to so-and-so, it's I walked to, like, the window. Because he wanted it to be a very subjective Oppenheimer's experience kind of thing, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Nolan began by trying to find the thread that connected the quantum realm, the vibration of energy, and Oppenheimer's own personal journey. And this kind of led into some of the more controversial parts in the film, the sex scenes. He wanted to specifically portray his affair with Jean Tatlock because of her influence on him when it came to the Communist Party and just the enormous ramifications that later had in his life and the trouble that got him in. So I can understand the motivation behind it, and we'll go into content later on. But I can see where they're coming from, and we'll delve more into that later, what our personal thoughts are. The script, after it was written, was run by physicist Kip Thorne, who helped write Interstellar, and also reviewed the script for Tenet when Nolan wrote it. So they've had a couple kind of collaborations. Nolan just uses him as like a reference, like how realistic and probable is this, blah, blah, blah. The casting process for this was very secretive, that some of the cast members did not know which role they would be playing until they signed on. So pretty much it just became a, hey, Nolan wants to do a movie. Do you want to do a movie with him? And most people are like, duh, yes.
That's funny. This was quite a star-studded cast.
I know. Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Emily Blunt took pay cuts to work on the film, with each earning $4 million in lieu of their usual $10 to $20 million upfront salary.
Wow.
And this was all in the writer's strike.
Only a measly $4 million.
But that just kind of speaks to like how excited people were to work on this project.
Yeah.
Because this was in the middle of the writer's strike too, when people were just not acting or writing.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll do this. We'll do this.
Yeah, that is fun. That's kind of cool.
Downey went to Nolan's house to read the script, which was printed in black on red paper, which I found interesting. I guess it was something to just kind of make it so if it got out, it was just, I guess, like people knew it got out, or he'd be able to tell who got it out.
Someone stole it or something.
Yeah.
Why does Christopher Nolan always do the most?
I don't know. Downey would later describe Oppenheimer as the best film in which he has ever appeared to date. So high praise from him.
No, Mr. Iron Man.
I know. The original schedule for shooting this film was 85 days, but then was shortened to 57 days to make the budget. Which is, if you think about it, that's like a whole month you were taking away.
Yeah.
And Cillian Murphy described the pace as insane.
I know. They probably were really tired after that.
What else do I have? Critical reception. For the most part, people really like this film, and a lot of people have been so bold as to call it one of the greatest films of the century. Take that what you want.
That's interesting. I feel like I've only heard controversial thoughts about this movie.
Well, that's the thing. The biggest criticism / controversy, aside from, some people being taken aback by there being sex scenes in this, but that's whatever, because some movies have that. It primarily has to do with the bombing in Japan and why that wasn't shown on screen, because a lot of people felt kind of upset that it didn't show that given the subject matter. And Nolan, has come out and addressed it, just being like, that's not the story this is telling, even though we acknowledge that's horrible. This is about Oppenheimer specifically, and if someone else wants to make a movie about that, then that'd be great, but that's just not what this was doing. But naturally, people feel very strongly about this.
They could make Oppenheimer 2, and this could be the first first Nolan movie to have a sequel.
But yeah, people just felt because it was real life subject matter that it should have gone that far as to show that, to give it weight. But we'll delve more into that later on, I guess.
Yeah, I have a thought on that. But
Steven Spielberg was the first person this film was screened to. Oh. Which was interesting.
Are Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan besties?
I don't think they're besties, but, they're two very important directors in the industry. Denis Villeneuve, who directed Dune and Dune Part 2, personally thought it was a masterpiece and advised Nolan that Steven Spielberg absolutely adored the movie. So, high praise all around.
Okay, so how come the other guy had to tell him that?
Because, I don't know, I guess Spielberg had to think about it.
Is Spielberg too holy to talk to Nolan?
I guess so.
He needs a mediator?
I think, rumor has it that Nolan went to Spielberg very, very early on to consult him, because Spielberg did films like Schindler's List, or, what else did he do? Saving Private Ryan, which are, well, one of them is a biopic, but like intense, R-rated historical films, so he probably went to him for kind of just input about it. Physicists naturally love this film for its accuracy and its respect to science, in the same way they loved Interstellar for that reason. All right, so now we're going to the awards section. Oh, juicy baby. Lots of noises over there.
No, she was just choking on something. She's fine.
No.
She's fine.
Is she okay now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So now we're going to the awards section. As far as this film was nominated for like an insane amount of awards, like almost 400, and it won like 350 of those. It was crazy.
Wow.
But as far as Academy Awards go, it was nominated for 13, which makes it Nolan's most nominated film. It became both the highest grossing and longest best picture winning film since 2003's Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King.
Wow.
I know. It was nominated for, but did not win, Best Supporting Actress for Emily Blunt, Best Adapted Screenplay, which I'm surprised that did not win. Like, I feel like that should have definitely won this category. I don't know what else came out that would have won Best Adapted Screenplay, but, like, I feel like that definitely should have been earned, because this will go into writing, but I'm surprised it didn't win that one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Best Sound, Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, and Best Makeup and Hairstyling. So those are the ones that didn't win. But the ones that did win include Best Picture, Best Director, making it Nolan's first win for Best Director, Best Actor for Cillian Murphy, Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, and Best Original Score.
Wow.
I know.
It's a lot of bests.
I know, right? As far as fun facts go, you've probably heard this story before, but Matt Damon famously was on acting hiatus in agreement with his wife. But his one agreement was, if Christopher Nolan calls to do a movie with me, I'm going to do it. And ironically,
That's funny.
he did end up calling, so he had to do it. He made the deal.
No, that's funny. I think it's funny.
So those are all the facts that I have. What are your general, spoiler-free, personal thoughts about this movie?
My personal thoughts? I enjoyed it a lot the second...
Oh, baby's got the mic.
I enjoyed it a lot the second time around. I think because I wasn't in an uncomfortable circumstance, like the movie theater.
Uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's
know
fine.
you can't relate, but I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very interesting, and it was kind of fun to watch, like, where I could pay closer attention
Right.
to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, how bad of a person Oppenheimer was, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't call him a bad person
He was
so
a
much.
good
It's just
guy.
not a good guy.
Yeah.
That kind of stood out to me a lot in this viewing. But yeah, I thought it was good. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad we watched it again.
Me too. My personal thoughts are, I really like this movie. And for the most part, I have nothing but good things to say about it.
Wow.
And I was thinking about this. I think this might make my top 10 list. As far
Really?
as movies go, yeah.
Interesting.
I know. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it might make that list.
That's impressive.
I know. I think it's a very unique film in terms of setup, in terms of it being a biopic, but it being very Nolanized in terms of how it's built. It's very fast-paced, even though it's very long. Like, it just goes and goes and goes, and it's always sprinting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
There's not really a moment that's, like, really boring or slow.
And despite that, it's very thoughtful and it's very dense with characters and themes and dialogue. It's very well written. I think it's well executed. It's just fascinating, just as far as a character study goes. And it, even outside of character study, just the politicalness of the situation and all the differing opinions about what's going to happen with this. I just really think this is the best of what Christopher Nolan can do as far as his strengths go, because I know a lot of people had complaints about Tenet, it being the best and the worst of him. But I feel like you could probably find some things that aren't great in terms of technicalities or writing or whatever for this one. But I feel like if you just accept it as a Nolan product, like he delivers very much as to what you think he would. And just watching it this time around, like it takes... There's always a certain amount of genius that has to go into writing a script because it's a lot of work, and then you realize there's the whole, not just writing the script, but the editing, the filming, the planning, and blah, blah, blah. But to have him write this and like know ahead of time how it's going to cross connect and go back and forth while going in a linear fashion, like that's just mind boggling. Like that takes a lot of intelligence to be able to write a script like that.
Yeah, definitely. It is a very, like, you can tell that Nolan puts a lot of thought into his script writing and just his movies in general.
But I guess to me, this one just stood out more because it's not like rules he made up so much as this is the reality of the situation. But like, how do I make it interesting? So those are my general thoughts. So now we're going to our favorite moment of the film, personal favorite moments. So this can be spoiler filled. If it doesn't necessarily give away the plot in and of itself. Not that there's really a whole lot you can give away with this plot because you...
No, it's true. It's not like there's really anything to spoil.
I guess there is a bit of a twist, which if you're not familiar with history, kind of caught me off guard, which we'll go into later. But like the whole bomb thing, obviously, like we know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So what was your personal favorite moment, whether it was a funny moment or a not funny moment?
There wasn't really a funny moment in this movie.
There were funny quips here and there, I thought.
That's true. I would say it's a tie, not a tie, but my two favorite moments were the parts where he's laying around and like in college, like laying in bed thinking about atoms and that music is playing and it's just like atoms. I like that a lot. For some reason, it made me feel something. Like, it made me feel weird and, like, nostalgic or something.
Was it the montage when, like, the one character, Kenneth Branagh, asks him if he can hear the music? Was that it? Okay. Yeah.
Like, just like the whole Atom music montage thing. And also the part where his wife is in the makeshift courtroom with him and, like, answering really, like, snappily to the guy and, like... being very sassy and confusing him.
I know.
I think that's my favorite part of the movie, but the atoms and stuff, that part was a second favorite.
There you go. Yeah. I might have two moments down, too. By the way, that scene where Kitty is being kind of sassy and snappy towards the guy is taken from actual transcripts. So it's not like they chalked it up because, like, girl power. It's like, no, this actually happened and she said these things.
Wow, that's funny.
I know. Two of my favorite moments, the more serious moment is definitely Oppenheimer's first trauma response in the auditorium. The scene where, like, everyone's stomping their feet and that's kind of like a big reveal moment and him just giving the speech and suddenly things just start going crazy and his peripheral and sound gets really weird and it gets really, really spooky. And
that part of the movie that I've never actually watched with my eyeballs.
It's a very, very well done but very haunting scene. Like it stands out to me as being just so well executed and I feel like it will become a very iconic scene.
Yeah. I
feel like almost because that scene in and of itself, this film will probably make... There's the whole National Film Registry, being culturally, historically, aesthetically significant. I feel like given everything that everybody's thought about this movie so far, I feel like give this 20 years, it will probably make that list.
Yeah, interesting. That could be.
It could be.
Yeah,
we don't know.
That scene, the only part I've ever seen from that scene is when he steps on the corpse. That's the only part I've seen.
No, but like it's a very spooky scene and it's not like you're seeing anything horrifying, it's just the way they manipulate the sound and like it's just...
I do really like how they have throughout the movie when I think it kind of seems like particularly when he's feeling like really intense things with that one sound with the feet stomping. I really like that. I think that makes this movie really iconic.
Yeah.
Like, because I think, was that featured in the trailer?
I think so, because people, I remember listening to reviews and people hearing it being like, what is that? What would be that?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the most iconic part of the movie.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting reveal. like, I guess it makes sense that because, to me, that being my favorite moment, that being the reveal, that's the feet stomping. But it being like the trauma response, and I guess that's why you hear it when he gets stressed at any point. Like, it's fascinating that it's that.
Yeah.
But it works. It's like,
I know.
It's unimpressive, but at the same time, very impressive.
I know. Yeah, that is very cool.
My favorite silly moment was, and I mentioned this the other day, was definitely Matt Damon saying something about birth control in the town because of all the babies.
Yes.
In your Los Alamos with no TV, well, let's just say you gotta find ways to keep yourself entertained.
I know. Wow.
Okay, so Savannah, you're very tired. I'm going to challenge you in your hazy state. We've got to get a 5-minute plot recap of this.
Okay.
I think you're capable of it. There's a lot of back and forth in this movie, but like it goes forward. There's a clear plot.
I'm gonna follow the linear plot.
Just follow the linear plot. You got this.
Okay.
So this will be very spoiler filled, obviously, for those who are listening. So if you haven't seen it and want to see it, walk away. Walk away now. You already already have a flavor of what we think about this. But if you don't care or have seen it, feel free to listen on.
I know. I'm gonna do so bad at this.
No, you've got this. You can do it. Ready, set, go.
Okay, so the movie starts with Oppenheimer in school in, where was it?
I can't remember. Somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, somewhere. Was it Poland?
Probably, yeah.
Somewhere in Europe, and he is, he's studying something, but he's feeling frustrated because he's not able to, like, really grasp it and, like,
yeah, something like that.
And so he ends up he gets told to go to this other college, and he goes to college in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he really starts exploding in his interest and his abilities with, what would that field be?
Physics?
Oh, physics.
Quantum physics.
Quantum physics.
Which is what at the time was a brand new thing.
Yeah. And so he's, like, really, delving into that. He was feeling lonely. I think that was when he was at the other school, but we're kind of touching on his lonely feelings and stuff in school. And he attends a lecture.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him in class, and he's kind of mad at his teacher. Or did that happen before?
That happened before.
Okay, well, we'll skip over that part. Anyway, there's a poison apple somewhere in there. And he attends a lecture, and then he meets this Jewish guy, and they become friends. And the Jewish guy always tries to feed him because he's so skinny, but for some reason he's always feeding him, like, apple slices, which I don't think is really going to do anything.
Oppenheimer is a vegetarian secretly.
Yeah. And after that, we see him going to get a job at a university. Mm-hmm. And Robert Downey Jr. is there. And he's kind of like, is he the dean or something of the university?
Something, yeah.
And he's, like, offering him a job. And he's like, we have a cool house you could live in. And then they look out the window and they see Einstein skipping stones, being a weird homeless man. Yeah. And Oppenheimer goes out there and talks to him, and then Robert Downey Jr. comes out there, and then Einstein, after he's done talking to Oppenheimer, walks past Robert Downey Jr. with, like, this weird look on his face, like he's kind of, like, annoyed. Thus starts the vendetta between...
It's raining.
Between whatever Robert Downey Jr.'s character's name is. Strauss.
That's right. He says pronounced Strauss.
Thus begins the vendetta between them because Strauss thinks that Oppenheimer, like, slandered him to Einstein. But anyway, after that, what happens after that? Give me a little push.
So that was cutting forward in time.
Yeah, that's cutting forward in time.
We're following him as he gets a job in America, and he meets other scientists.
So he gets a job at this university. Not the same university, but a different one.
Right, this is before.
Yeah, this is before. Yeah, anyway. He gets a job at this university. He gets a classroom. He's going to start teaching, quantum physics. And he only has, like, one student at first, but then word quickly spreads, and he has a full classroom. And he's friends with the guy next door who's, like, in practical physics, who's, like, building things and stuff. and they kind of combine forces and whatnot. And so he's kind of talking to his class and teaching them things. Then he kind of starts getting involved in politics, and he goes to this party hosted by a friend, or a friend of a friend who's like in the Communist Party.
Right.
It was truly a communist party. And at the party, he meets Jean, who is a communist and stuff, and she says something witty, and then we cut to the sex scene, which is fun. And then
Not like that was
a sarcastic fun.
That was sarcastic.
It was not fun. Not that I watched it, but
No.
I don't know. I can't imagine that it was fun. But anyway, after that,
It seemed kind of boring, but whatever.
I know I've heard
From
that
the
it was
dialogue.
I've heard that it was just really bad. Like the critics think it's really bad, like poorly done.
Oh well.
Okay. Anyway, after that, he kind of goes and visits Jean, brings her flowers, but she like eats them in the
We've
garbage.
got 2 minutes left.
Okay.
And 2.5 hours to go.
Okay. Anyway, after that, he gets married to this lady who's divorced, or who is actively getting divorced after they have their little encounter. It's a different lady.
Different lady.
Different lady. He gets her pregnant. She divorces her husband and marries Oppenheimer. They're married now. And then they go and kind of set the stage for Los Alamos. Because they're kind of there, right? He's showing it to her. And then we hear that the Germans have split the atom.
I know.
And they're like, wow, I can't believe they did that. And then like 5 seconds later, they go to the room and split an atom. And they're like, cool, just the Germans did it. So for some reason, like the data just uploaded in all of humanity's brains. And they're like, we can do that now. And so they split the atom. And they're really excited about that. And then, a long story short, they build a town in the desert. And they make an atomic bomb there. And they are like, ooh, and there's a lot of people working on the project, and some of them are women, which is impressive. I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad they didn't make it seem like it was only men, because there are smart women out there.
It's true, there are.
And they drop the atomic bomb on Japan, and Oppenheimer starts feeling guilty, and kind of like, oh, I was responsible for this. And then we kind of have a lot of montages and cuts back and forth to the turmoil of him being in court. And it's not really real court. It's kind of fake court of him being accused of being a communist and being disloyal to the United States. And this whole thing was orchestrated by Strauss because he doesn't like him.
Right.
And because Oppenheimer, quote, publicly humiliated him in some way.
Right.
Still don't really fully know what that even was. I don't personally. I'm sure the movie explains it. But anyway, lots of stuff goes on in the courtroom. And eventually Oppenheimer has had a lot of his friends and acquaintances come in and like testify for his character. And he eventually is told that they believe that he's loyal to the United States and he's not a communist and stuff. And then Strauss gets kicked off of whatever board he was on or something. And then we kind of just have scenes of Oppenheimer like accepting awards and being the father of the atomic bomb, but also like still being like kind of riddled with guilt about it.
Right.
And the whole quote that the movie is basically based on is Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man, and they destroy themselves. And that's kind of what Oppenheimer's dealing with towards the end of the movie, and he's kind of like, I can't believe I just did I did this, and I allowed humanity to destroy themselves, and
which is the big reveal of that conversation between him and Einstein that Strauss misinterpreted.
Yes,
as being slander. Oh, sad baby.
Einstein was feeling somber about the whole thing, and Strauss interpreted it as him being mad at Strauss, and that's kind of a good example of people who are obsessed with themselves think everyone's talking about them all the time.
Yeah, no.
But anyway. In conclusion, Oppenheimer also has 2 children.
Oh, there you
Not
go.
that matters, but that happens sometimes.
They're always screaming their heads
And they're
off.
always screaming, and he's a terrible dad.
It's true.
And also, Jean Tatlock dies. She
It's
drowns
true.
herself.
Somehow. We don't know how.
Oh, I just said.
She either killed herself or maybe... I mean, I think so, but like Oppenheimer is fearful that someone killed her or something. It's kind of like
there is that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway.
The end.
There you go. I mean, there you go.
Thank you.
Good job. That was a lot of information to cover.
I know, this movie's very long.
It's a very long movie. Which, like, I knew it was long going into watching this. I think because we as an American audience have come to really not value, but like the atomic bomb, big explosions is such a big part of cinema and just history now that like I think I was guilty of falling into the mindset of like, oh, this is going to be the big thing the whole movie's building to, which isn't wrong, but it's called Oppenheimer. So it goes off halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, there's a whole lot more coming.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a movie about him, not necessarily about the bomb.
Yeah. Which I think is good because we can go into the bomb later on, what people think about the actual scene itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's delve into our rating system. We got 4 categories that we'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5, including entertainment, quality, writing, and content. Savannah, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this for entertainment?
I have a hard time using the word entertainment because
Okay.
it was entertaining, I guess. For some reason when I hear the word entertaining, I think of like laughing and like, ooh, and that wasn't really
right.
this movie, but
But like if you were to use entertainment with like engaging, like kind of like as a
definitely,
synonym for
I would say
engaging, or like it kept you on the edge of your seat. Kind of
I would say 4.5 to 5, only because I did fall asleep during part of it.
You were very tired.
And I am still tired right now, falling asleep while talking about it. I would give it let's just give it a big old 5.
Big old 5. Wow.
Big old
Man.
5. It was engaging. It's interesting. It's very like, It's not your typical like action-packed entertaining movie.
No, not at all.
It's very slow, but it's also just very
It's scientists talking about physics.
But I enjoy those kind of movies, and I thought it was just very it was definitely engaging and kept me interested and curious about what was going on.
Curious. I give it a big old 5 too. I think what this movie does well right off the bat is when you think about other films kind of this nature, like Imitation Game or Beautiful Mind, there's a certain, or Theory of Everything even, which are about
I would say this
scientists.
movie reminded me most of The Theory of Everything.
Which they follow a certain formula, but they're all good films in their own right, for the most part. They follow very unique characters, very interesting characters, flawed characters, but who made an impact or a difference. So this movie, comes out and it's like, how is this going to compare in terms of being its own thing? And like just right off the bat, it's formatted way differently than any of these other films, and it's very much its own unique thing, even though it's following, that scientist type character and archetype. I was never bored for a second. Each scene was really interesting, even though this is a very, very dialogue heavy movie. There's lots of talking, but like they managed to cut it in a way that it's always interesting, even if it's like there's never just an interrogation scene. It's like, there's an interrogation scene, but it's cutting to the past about this guy talking about like, oh, I'd never let you talk to this guy, and then it's cutting to the future and like, why would you say that to this guy? And then to the actual interrogation scene, and it's like, oh man, this would be stressful just watching this interrogation scene in of itself, but you gotta cut it back and forth and add it to this other dynamic to it.
Yeah, I would say that you would get a lot of benefit watching this movie with captions.
Oh, for sure, yeah. There's a lot of words.
Ask your local theater to turn on captions if you go see it. Well,
Right.
Never mind, that was last year. But
But
you should.
I mentioned this earlier. The movie feels like a never-ending montage or trailer. Like it just always feels like it's building to something.
Yeah, once you said that, I
but
couldn't
never
unsee
gets
it.
there, which is it has its moments where it kind of ebbs down a little bit, but it always feels like it's building to something and never gets there until the very end where you're like, wow, okay, the end. Which I don't mind, but I could see that almost being exhausting in some ways because it is just it's requiring so much energy from you, which I don't mind because like I go to watch a movie to be entertained and engaged, and when it's demanding that kind of emotional energy,
Yeah.
I like it. The way the film cuts back and forth while also still progressing linearly, I just thought was interesting because it's not like The Prestige where there's like 3 different timelines and it all goes to the end. It's just a matter of like, it's just cut up and you go back and forth. This one, it progresses linearly, but like they take elements of it going back and forth and like mash it up in there. And so it still moves forward linearly, but they still go back and forth a whole lot. So that was interesting. And like, I don't know if there's really a pattern to it so much as it just being suspenseful and doing that well. So yeah, that's what I would give it for entertainment. Definitely the second time around, I was able to appreciate a lot more for the details, as you mentioned. The first time was just, pure experience in theater. It just was, you just kind of let it happen and like, wow, that was really interesting. Let's go watch it again and get all the details. What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5 for production quality?
Give it a big ol' 5.
Big ol' 5? Why is that?
It's just a very beautiful movie. And
Really
like that one
beautiful
review we watched the other day, it's like there's no reason to really think it's a beautiful movie because nothing beautiful is really happening, and it's kind
Right.
of just like classrooms and wooden buildings and stuff. But it just has a vibe about it that's really
Right.
nice. And like the atomic bombs are cool looking, and there are cool sequences of like the atoms and the bombs and the fire
Right,
and stuff that
yeah.
are like very artistic.
Which none of it is CG, computer generated images. It's
Yeah,
all
which is
practical,
crazy.
so.
So yeah, I'd give it a 5 totally. It's very appealing not physically.
Physically?
It's very appealing, like visually. And I think like I liked the costumes and everything and the makeup and stuff. I thought was well
Do
done.
the vibes, like, does that era vibe with you? Or
Yeah, I do like that era. It's not like my favorite era, but it definitely. I feel like they did a good job capturing it. And I feel like considering they had so many extra characters and stuff, everyone was well dressed and like
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Yeah. It kind of reminds, we're very slowly going through Lord of the Rings behind the scenes and, very lengthy, very extensive, blah, blah, blah. But like, you just find out how much love and work went into everything and just the amount of ingenuity and things that had to be created for it. This film, kind of along with Dune Part 2, or just Dune in general, but I've looked into this one more. Just like the things they had to develop specifically for this to work, like those scenes where you're seeing swirls and colors that are supposed to be representative of atoms, like the fact that you have to design camera lenses to make that happen and like know what to make happen, I guess at the like kind of small but big at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lot of experimenting and it's just really interesting. Like people
Yeah.
have broken it down at this point and gone and tried it themselves, but they just don't have the right tools because they don't have the budget to be able to make it look the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely very cool. I'm impressed that they didn't use any CGI.
I know. But yeah, I would agree. I would give it a 5 as well. Once again, it looks very nice considering it's lackluster. The lackluster visuals for the most part, aside from the atomic stuff. Because like even in Dune Part 2, like every single scene is like a painting. Whereas this one, that's not the case. But like there's something.
I would take this over Dune any day, like as far as visuals.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah.
Like what about it is more. It's more. I don't know what it is.
Maybe more like visceral, like you'd like feel it more. It's more like
Maybe because there is a certain level. Maybe because with Dune there's an artificiality to what you're seeing because one, it's made up, and two, because everything's so perfect, like it's cinematic. Whereas this one, it just the color grading's nice, the lighting's really nice, the sets are very detailed, But they're not like framed like paintings. It's just characters doing their thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is kind of homey, and it's just very pretty looking.
Yeah.
And so I think they just do a good job of that. You didn't mention the score. And you mentioned you really like the score.
Yeah, I really like the score.
Which is a first.
I know.
For our review session.
I know. I wouldn't just like casually listen to it like you do with scores, but like I genuinely really liked it, and I thought it was really cool and totally added to the vibe of the movie. Especially like the intense, like the foot stomping parts, and then I really liked the music that played towards the beginning.
Right.
When he was younger. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was cool. Very ethereal. And very just fun to listen to.
It's true. I do really like the music. It's literally nonstop in this movie. Like, it never gives you a moment to pause, which is classic Nolan, and some people have complaints about that because the music does drive so much of it, and it's really what makes some of those dialogue scenes so intense, which totally works because, film is a video, it's a visual and auditorial medium, and I think not a lot of people take enough advantage of the auditorial part.
Yeah.
And I think there's just a lot of experimenting, especially recently, with that portion of it for directors and filmmakers. Fun fact about the score was that when Nolan approached Ludwig about doing it, he right off the bat said he did want a violin to lead it due to its nature being able to be like really sweet and melodic and also being very eerie and haunting at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
So that's why if you do listen to it, it leads a lot of the score itself. But I also really like the sirens they kind of throw in there too.
Yeah.
Which add this really haunting but like an awe-inspiring aspect to it as well. Once again, editing, really complex. Like, I do not envy someone having to edit this. Like, and then go where and the what and the how and whew. I think that was a rightly earned award. The acting was really good. Cillian Murphy, I think I really appreciate his performance this time around.
Yeah, me too. It was very convincing.
Yeah, he's just very stressed all the time. He's not a happy guy. Also very detached, very distant.
Yeah, not very warm and fuzzy at all.
And very little eye contact with his colleagues.
Yeah.
The cast overall is just kind of crazy and unreal, and as that one video we watched mentioned, like bringing so many people into it, especially big names, most of them we don't recognize but other people do, just adds to the weight of like it just being there's so many people that were involved in this, in addition to Nolan jokes about how everyone who came up to him doing their parts knew more about the characters they were playing than he did at that point.
That's funny.
And he realized that at that point, each character could have their own movie. It's really fun when you feel like all these are real people as opposed to just background characters. Visual effects, we established, were pretty cool. They're pretty cool looking, very colorful.
I thought also that the way that Los Alamos was built and made it really look like it was kind of just slapped together.
Yeah.
It was a very new town.
Right.
And I kind of liked that too.
Did you?
I liked that a lot. I thought it
like
was...
you almost feel like it's a set, but it's supposed to be a set kind of thing because of just the nature of it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like where they detonated the bomb and like that place where they were kind of like hiding out while they were waiting, and like it was like, yeah, they literally looked like they just built it and casually.
The bomb itself is a controversial effect because people don't love it. And I watched it the first time and I thought, this is okay. And I watched it the second time and I went, this is still okay. I think the way the scene is crafted is really good. The build up to it's really good. It's very suspenseful. The actual editing when a bomb goes off with the sound going silent and it just being like the breathing of Oppenheimer and like just the ethereal music and like you don't see the whole bomb and it's just the colors and it's black in the background. Even factually that wouldn't be correct because it's 5:30 in the morning. Like that's all really well done, but the actual bomb explosion itself kind of underwhelming. and it looks like a gas explosion.
Wow,
when you
imagine
look at
putting
it.
all that work into making an atomic bomb without any visual effects, and everyone's like, this is lame.
Well, it's impressive that they did it, but if you look at videos of the actual Trinity test, it's like, oh yeah, no, very different. That one looks like out of this world, like a UFO.
It's true, but it was also a real
of thing.
atomic bomb.
It's true. Fun fact about this, so early on when Nolan was approached about this movie, someone went, so Nolan, how does it make you feel that your fans believe you'll be detonating an actual atomic bomb for this because you won't do CGI? And he went, well, that terrifies me, but also makes me, it enthralls me at the same time that they would believe I'd go to such lengths.
I know, like, this is so cool. Christopher Nolan's gonna bomb the U.S. for his movie.
I did talk to somebody who literally thought they were detonating an actual atomic bomb for this. Like, I don't
Pretty
think
sure
they
those
would
atomic
do
bombs
that.
were like locked up very safely because we use those for literal war if we had one.
Yeah.
I don't think they could spare one to Christopher Nolan. I think his budget would be much more than $100 million if they gave an actual one.
Probably. Yeah, no, not to mention the radiation poisoning. You wouldn't want to deal with that for 50 years, 100 years. That wouldn't be worth a movie, in my opinion.
No.
Most people would agree with that. The interrogation scene in the small room, just being so claustrophobic, I thought was really nice and well done.
Yeah.
And it wasn't nice. It was well done, and it was
Yeah.
nice in the sense of it being well done. Like, it just feeling like, I wouldn't want to be in there with all those men in this hot room and being,
Everyone's smoking.
smoking and interrogating me about being a communist because I had some poor relations in my younger years. It was very intense, and I love how it eventually does build to a point, kind of like the trauma scene in the auditorium where there's like flashing of lights because there's like a bomb going off outside Oppenheimer's mind. Did you catch that?
I don't think so. Like I said, I think I closed my eyes during that whole scene.
Well, this was the interrogation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
then
there's
he's
the-
like naked in the chair.
No, that wasn't that.
But that scene, they did the flashing in that scene too.
I didn't catch that then. No, this was like when Roger Robb was really hammering down on him,
okay.
asking him about his moral opinions about it.
I think I
then
might have caught
the
that.
background was shaking, and it was just well done. It was a very well done scene, and I love that they kind of threw that in there, so it wasn't just another interrogation scene so much as just like, here, let's add a little flair to that and
Yeah.
make it fun. But yeah, I think the only last real thing about quality, I mean, I could go on and on, but I'll end it short. Last big scene, my favorite scene obviously was the auditorium scene, which you still haven't seen, and that's okay. It's just, I think about that scene, and I'm like, that is just such a well done and haunting work of art. Like, that has to be the most iconic scene, even though there was a quote unquote atomic explosion before this, because the way they cut it with the lighting, and there's ash falling from the sky and it goes silent. They mess with sound a lot in this, but it just provokes such a feeling of like uneasiness that the bomb itself going off doesn't
Yeah.
do, that I feel like I felt more scared in that moment than I did with the atomic bomb going off. And it's just, I can't really explain why I think it's great, but like, it just stands out as being a very well thought scene. And like, I felt that they used all the tools in their kit to make that
Yeah.
work very well.
Yeah, it was definitely very haunting, and like the aftermath when he walks out of it too.
Yeah, and there's like the
part.
people like making out in the corner and people sobbing, and then there's this guy like throwing up, and it's like, what's real, what's in his head, and the fact that speaking of quality, the sound design of the bomb, like the sound, they build up to the sound always being later than the explosion.
Yeah.
So with the atomic bomb, like in theaters, you were covering your ears. You're like, oh no. But then they mess with you more because they're like, let's prolong this, and then you'll get the explosion. Because
I know. I think I was plugging my ears, and then I unplugged them, and then it exploded.
And then it exploded, right? But they kind of toy with that here as well with the auditorium sound, because it does go silent, and you kind of get the sense the bomb goes off in Oppenheimer's mind. And then it suddenly cuts to like people behind him and cheering, and it's this really loud. I can't think of the word, but it's like a very intense
Yeah.
sound, and it hurts
I
to
know.
hear. It's the only way to describe it. Like, man, they did that. They did that really well. Good job, guys.
Oh. Yeah, that was really well done, for sure.
So, flash cut into the future. We're doing this podcast in 2 parts because last night one of us at least, was really tired for understandable reasons. I won't name any names. But you're like, we should come back and do this when we're able to concentrate and enjoy ourselves more. So here we are, just making that note in case the audio sounds really different. Anyway, back to the show. So we left off talking about quality, production quality. Savannah, did you have any other comments about production quality?
No, I think I shared most of my thoughts last night. Like I said, it really struck me like how Los Alamos looked really like makeshift, and I thought that was cool. But yeah, the sets were I always notice sets because I like them.
Right.
I like looking at them, and I felt like they were all very like mundane, but in a cool way.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot.
I think that added to the realism because there are some sets, like, the White House scene, for example. Like, that's not obviously the White House. They got to do some dressing up.
Really? Can Christopher Nolan not go to the White House and film there?
I mean, most people don't. Security reasons. Like, it's probably a hassle to get, like, a film crew in there. And
That's true.
to, like, all the clearances and whatnot.
You mean that wasn't the real president?
No.
Wow. Disappointing.
But, like, because the sets tend to be more mundane things, like, I think there is a certain sense... When you're creating, like, a fantastical set, there's a little more work that I feel like you have to put into it because you have to make it believable in that sense. Whereas a mundane set, like, I feel like maybe you can put in twice as much work. Well, I don't know. Maybe it really depends how you look at it. Because with fantastical, your only reference is the real world. So if it's fantastical, like, in one sense you have to put in more work, but in the other sense you don't, because what are you comparing it to? Whereas in a real set, like, we have a very firm grasp of what that looks like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have a very firm grasp of what that looks like. So if it's wrong, you're like, that room looks a little off, a little sparse compared to what I would expect.
Yeah, that's a good point. I felt like some of them looked a little less realistic than like real life would, but I thought for the most part they did a good job. A lot of the sets remind me of The Imitation Game.
Yeah.
The vibes of this movie kind of reminded me of The Imitation Game.
I guess so, yeah. They were kind of similar. World War II, like, we're creating this really cool thing, Then it was a computer, the first computer, which, and that guy was a little bit of a, oh, hi, baby. Not a great person either.
No, it seems like there's a common thread between scientists and them
right?
just being weird and not good people.
It's true. I mean,
Sorry
maybe
to all the
that's
scientists.
that could be a whole discussion for another time, I have my thoughts on that. What did you think of, well, I guess this will go into writing. I was just going to ask about Emily Blunt's character, which I guess would go into writing, acting and all that. Speaking of which, I noticed Emily Blunt, I've never thought about this before. We were commenting last week about Cary Grant in North by Northwest having a cleft chin.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wait, Emily Blunt has a cleft chin. Huh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, it's not like super prominent, not like Cary Grant's, but it's a cleft chin. I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess there's an example, real life example. Movie star having one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they're not that rare. Adele has one.
Yeah, it's just you don't see a lot of movie stars. At least that I've noticed to have one. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or I've just never thought to look at it, and maybe Cary Grant's is just so distinct.
Some are definitely more pronounced than others. Yeah. I don't really look at any part of Emily Blunt's face really other than her mouth. Like, I look at her mouth a lot. Like, for some reason, that's like her most...
Her mouth is, it's like, I feel like that's the
distinct.
strongest part of her acting. She uses that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's delve into writing, which includes the dialogue, the characters, the overall plot, pacing, etc., etc. On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give writing? Be honest. Don't feel like I have to go one way or the
And
other.
I'm playing it through my mind really fast and thinking. I'm kind of leaning towards 4.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have an overt criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait,
Oh, what?
I didn't talk about Einstein and his design and how I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
Back in production
Rewind.
quality.
Just go.
So something I wanted to comment on as far as production quality goes that I didn't really like, which could just be me, was the character design of Einstein. I thought he looked like a homeless, washed up homeless man that didn't have any he did not. I don't feel like they did him justice in making him seem like the great scientific mind that he was. I thought most of the time, I think they usually pick actors that are way more attractive than the historical figure themselves.
Right.
But I thought the actor was less attractive than Einstein.
He was an older Einstein,
Oh no,
He's past his prime.
No. I'm thinking of all the pictures I've seen of Einstein with completely white hair. He's really old.
Right.
Real Einstein looked better than the Einstein in the movie. I don't know. He didn't appeal to me. He was very, the word that comes to mind is dumpy. He was just very dumpy.
Okay.
I don't know.
I guess that's fine. That's fair. I guess they did a better job with Nikola Tesla and the Prestige.
Yeah.
Kind of making him this elegant, oh my goodness, that guy's in here?
But yeah, I think that was my biggest complaint for production quality, honestly, was Einstein's. Which is funny because he only appeared 3 times.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. I thought to me, it was charming. It's kind of he's very different from Oppenheimer. He's kind of just, this bumbling old guy who's kind of sweet. And I feel like they kind of, I don't know if this was what they were going for, but I felt that they were kind of trying to portray him, as I said, past his prime, in a sense, the world's kind of done with him and he's just kind of living life, and that he just feels like he needs to wear sweatshirts over all of his, button-ups, which is an interesting
Don't we all
choice.
feel that way, though?
Funny hats, his funny hats all the time.
Yeah. We all hit that point in life.
It's true. So yeah, maybe it wasn't as well done as Nikola Tesla and the Prestige, but I liked it. I thought it was fun that they had that, at least for the movie's sake, that contrast to the character.
Yeah, I liked that he was there, and it totally didn't ruin the movie for me. It offended my sensibilities.
Right. I mean, I guess going into writing, having Einstein there kind of being the figure that Oppenheimer would become in a sense. Obviously, Einstein didn't face the same ridicule, but him being the older scientist, blah, 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 I had my time. Then suddenly if there's all these young scientists coming in, and they're teaching me, or they're saying I no longer understand my own work kind of thing, because it's moved so past that. And it just becoming this, it's just a cycle, I guess, that these scientists are facing. Oppenheimer will face himself, even though he'll be a little more hated on for his work.
It's true.
A little more ridiculed. So yes, back to where we're going. Delving into writing, you said...
4.5.
4.5, okay. Why would you give it a 4.5? You said you didn't have a major criticism.
I just maybe because the writing didn't necessarily writing usually doesn't stand out to me a lot as being wow, because I'm much more of a visually visual person. So nothing stood out to me as this was really good writing, but nothing was bad. So it was just kind of it was good, but it didn't wow me necessarily. I thought the characters were well done, well written. I liked Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer. I liked Oppenheimer. I thought, did I like him? I liked him as a person. I think even though he's a bad person and does bad stuff.
Well,
okay, morally suspicious things. Morally ambiguous.
He's not an upstanding citizen. We'll just say that.
Yeah. So, but I think they still did a good job making him a likable and sympathetic character. I thought Emily Blunt's character was annoying. And not annoying, but I was disgusted by her because she was so drunk all the time.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the point, I guess. But she obviously needed some mental wellness checks, and no one gave them to her.
At the time wasn't a thing.
The woman, she's distressed in some way. Yeah. Give her more alcohol and cigarettes. She'll be fine. But yeah, I thought she was well acted. Emily Blunt's an interesting actress. I'm trying to think of all the characters I've seen her as. I think I've only seen her in A Quiet Place and Oppenheimer. Have I seen her in something else?
We saw her in what was that historical film about Queen Victoria?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Young Victoria.
Young Victoria, yeah, we saw her in that.
I liked her in that.
Yeah.
That was young Emily Blunt.
Young Emily Blunt, right. Trying to think if I've seen her in anything else. No. I might have. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's funny that I've only seen her in like a couple things because for some reason I feel like I know her so well.
I feel like that's just because she's a really good actress.
Maybe. Yeah. So I thought, I liked her in this movie. I thought she was good and she was very convincing. I mean, she didn't really have a ton of dialogue. She kind of just had to like look drunk and mad.
Yeah. And
negligent.
Right, yeah. Which is a criticism that Nolan's films often face, are the women characters specifically. They've been, I guess most critics complain about them not being particularly well-written women, and there's been some debate on that. And it's usually just because the films aren't centering around them.
Yeah.
But I know some people have commented specifically about this character. Obviously, it's based off of historical facts, and it's through Oppenheimer's very subjective view of things. You can kind of use that as a certain quote unquote excuse, although it probably was. I think it was intentional, because I just got the impression that she was very I definitely had a gift, because she was in biology before, I think, and like really good at that, and then what's that, baby?
Was it biology or was it like mathematics or something?
No, I think it was biology. I could be wrong, and I just think like she got herself in she made some bad decisions with a couple husbands, as some people do, I guess, and that just kind of set her on this path of being a housewife, which is fine, but I think like she just felt neglected, and like people didn't appreciate her true potential. Yeah. So I felt that she played that role well, and that's the impression I got.
Yeah. And back to Nolan's women, I feel like a good example, this is kind of a random rabbit trail, but like in Inception, I feel like the woman in that movie, the wife, I don't remember her name, she was a poorly written one. I think that's a good example of a not super well written woman. But I feel like the two women in The Prestige were pretty good, and also the two women in Interstellar, the two main women. Yeah. I feel like those were pretty solid characters.
Yeah, and in Inception, like, if I guess there's there's the wife who's dead, but like, she's kind of supposed to be a specter at that point. Yeah. So like, I don't know how much effort you want to put into building her up in that sense. True. And the other character, Ariadne, people joke about her just being the audience at that time because she's asking all the questions, everyone's giving her the information. So it's like, it's not particularly well written. She's just the vessel for us to understand everything first.
That's true.
As far as writing for myself goes, I would give this a 5, I think. The biggest... I know, right? The biggest downfall, I'd say, is that depending how you look at it, it's not like you connect emotionally to these characters very deeply in the same way that you do in like A Beautiful Mind or Imitation Game or whatever.
Or Interstellar.
Well, no, I'm referencing...
So you're referencing mad scientist movies?
Yeah. And part of that's just because I think this is just the way it's set up, being kind of like a montage, and it's always building. Not that you don't relate to the characters, but there's a little bit of a barrier, I feel like, between you and them, and so you don't necessarily deeply resonate with all their plight so much as you are kind of watching and going like, oh, this is a very interesting thing to behold, but I don't necessarily feel engaged in it emotionally in the same way. So I feel like that's the biggest downfall, and that could change, or maybe that's the movie's intention. I don't know. It doesn't bother me too much because
Yeah, I definitely didn't feel really super bonded to any of the characters, but like you mentioned in The Theory of Everything, I really bonded with those characters. I felt like A Beautiful Mind, Imitation Game. It was definitely easier to.
yeah, because it's a little less going on, maybe.
Yeah.
A little more character intimate moments building with them. Where in this one there wasn't a whole lot of intimate moments so much as it's just like, all right, and we're going, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But I commented earlier, I just feel like it's to be able to write this script and know how it's going to cut back and forth in advance and blah blah blah, like that takes a lot of genius to be able to write and a lot of complexity, so I really appreciate that. The conversations, like I mentioned before, they make them, what could be really boring conversation or somewhat stressful conversation, they make them really engaging just based on how they write them and cut between things.
Yeah, like the courtroom scenes, pretty boring because it's pretty much just like dialogue and interrogation, but like they did make it interesting.
Yeah. Let me see. I remember watching a video a while back about how this film manages to keep our attention so long. And this guy proposed an idea of like, I think what this film is doing is it's asking a series of never-ending questions. There's the big question, right? What does Oppenheimer say to Albert Einstein? Which, kind of gets asked in the beginning, gets answered at the end. But like throughout the film, there are different subsets of questions, like really tiny questions it asks. Like, the whole Apple dilemma. Like, what's going to happen with Apple? Let's get back to that. So it keeps you engaged long enough. Or like, it just keeps that stream of questions and answers coming all the time. And then eventually it does give you the big reveal, but it's not like the whole film resolves on that single question.
Yeah.
Or there's like, who gave away Oppenheimer's security file to so-and-so and how they get a hold of it. And it is a never-ending series of questions. So I think I assume that was intentional. That was a pretty smart move to be able to do that. I liked how the theme of how there was that twist idea at the end with Albert, where there's the idea of, we might blow up the world if we start this because the chain reaction might never stop. And some people say that they kind of played that up for the movie's sake. But Nolan thought it was interesting because, like, even if there was the slightest remote possibility, these guys are insane to still pursue that.
I know.
But I think that the twist of, Strauss misinterpreting the situation, that theme coming up, and, like, it being a conversation between Albert and Oppenheimer earlier, or at some point. But, like, we hear it and we think, oh, that's an interesting dilemma. Is that going to happen? Another question they ask for the film. But then that being that conversation at the very end, except it has a different meaning and the same meaning at the same time. Like, we started chain reaction. However, it's not the chain reaction we thought it was. Like, oh, that's actually really brilliant writing. That's really good.
I know, that is interesting for sure. And like also to go back to the actual historical event, like the atomic bomb was very influential. And presumably the invention of the atomic bomb is kind of what's kept us from going into a war.
Yeah, I mean,
in recent years, like a real war.
Yeah.
Because the Cold War happened, I guess.
Yeah, well, there have been lots of little wars. Yeah, America has been involved in lots of wars. It's prevented another world war, at least, so far. Because, and I know there's the whole Ukraine-Russian situation. There's always threats of nuclear weaponry happening, but, like, nobody's done it yet because they know. They're like, do we really want to be the ones to start that?
Oh, man. I know. I can't imagine. I don't even want to think about it. Why did I bring it up?
That's the point of the movie. Like, it's supposed to be a scary ending because you're like, oh, my goodness, it's kind of a scary world we live in when there's that much power.
No, some of us don't need more reminders every day of how scary the world is. But no, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, and I love that twist and love the twist and the play on words and the meanings and just the symbolism that goes on there. I liked Strauss's character. He was the twist I mentioned last night, where I didn't really know he was the villain, and it kind of like, oh, he was behind everything. Like, that was fun, but what's nice about the movie, it's not built upon that twist. So, like, you go back and watch it a second time, and you can see his hand in everything more, in the dialogue specifically.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I felt him as the villain way more the second time.
Yeah, because you know now, like, oh, you can see how he's manipulating the situation, blah, blah, blah. So that was interesting.
Maybe he was the one who drowned Jean in the bathtub.
Probably not.
No, but maybe.
I don't think they had that relationship at that point.
I know. But still, what if?
But yeah, we already addressed Oppenheimer. Not a great person. Still very interesting. They kept us engaged with that and made him sympathetic. The dialogue, being able to pick up on that the second time round. There's just so much dialogue, so much heavy dialogue, so much... Ooh, hi, baby. Very noisy. So much sciencey stuff going on. Like, I don't know what any of this means, but I'm sure it means something important because it sounds important. We'll just move on. The film definitely presents the pro and anti-bomb side very well. I don't think the film ever, like, goes into the fact of, like, oh, this was a great thing that happened. But it goes into, like, you know, Oppenheimer's perspective of, like, from the moment this set in motion, like, it was going to happen. It was inevitable. It's a matter of who is going to do it, though, first and obtain that power.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting argument. And, you know, there are some people who are totally anti, and, like, we're not going to do this because we feel it's wrong for understandable reasons. So I felt like it dealt with that very interestingly. And it wasn't really a cautionary tale, I felt, so much as just an exploration of human nature and, like, what are you supposed to do when those predicaments come up? Like, you know, the biggest moral quandary of the film is, what should the bombs have been dropped on Japan? And Oppenheimer gives the argument, you know, nobody's going to know the power of these things till we use it. And someone brings up the point, you know, we're going to drop 2 bombs because, 1, you know, to get their attention, and 2, to show them we'll keep doing it if we have to. And then some people being very, very morally opposed to that for very obvious reasons. So I felt like they never portrayed it as a black and white scenario. Like, you could see where it was going. And I think, you know, if you were to ask, my opinion is, if you'd ask Christopher Nolan specifically, he probably would say, like, no, we probably shouldn't have dropped those bombs on Japan.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Not kind of, I do agree. I don't believe in mass murdering innocent people.
No, it's not ideal. That's not the way to go about things. But I felt that, like, considering that, they handled the topic very well and provided a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? I think, last statement. I know I'm going on for a long time about this. I sit down and write out my thoughts. The most impressive thing to me about this film is that this is history. So there's some elements about it that we know happened. Some elements I didn't know were going to happen, like Strauss being the villain, because I just don't know history that well in that sense.
Yeah, I barely heard about Oppenheimer until this movie.
Yeah. And so, like, for some people, you know, it's going to be like, oh, it's a twist, and some people it's not. But what's brilliant about it is that it's not so built on the twists. Like, it doesn't, kind of like A Beautiful Mind, it's really built on that twist.
Yeah.
Which I think after, you can watch it again and again, I think, and still appreciate different aspects about it. But, like, the twist isn't going to be the same after that initial shock of, like, oh my goodness. Whereas in this one, there are twists and you can appreciate them first time, but, like, now they're part of the story and you can kind of see how everything is building towards each other. And it just keeps your attention, even though this is history that's happened. And your appreciation and understanding of the story only grows the more you watch it. Whereas I think, I've only seen A Beautiful Mind once, but, like, my thought would be, you watch that more and you come to appreciate it more, not so much for, like, coming to grasp the story better so much as just being able to resonate with it more as a human being who's just lived life.
Yeah.
And kind of be like, oh, I can resonate with these kinds of things because I'm older than I was when I first watched it, kind of thing. Those are my thoughts. I don't know if that's true or not. Anything to comment?
I don't think so, but I mean, yeah, I think it's always cool, and I think with Nolan movies, you always do this more, like every time you watch it, you see something new, and you see how things are interconnected.
Yeah.
And I really like that about him.
Yeah.
It makes things interesting. It makes it interesting to watch and to, like, pick things apart and rediscover little interesting details.
Interesting. I mean, arguably the Batman movies probably do that the least.
Yeah, Batman's a pretty straightforward story.
That's true.
But I don't know. I think of those in a different category than his other movies.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because, like, even though I know he, like, invented those stories, like, the stories themselves, right?
Well, he worked with people and based them off comics.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, he helped write them. Like, he had influence on it. And I think that obviously shows the most in the Dark Knight. Just, like, you see very much that cross-cutting kind of thing you got in this movie, but, like, the building of suspense scenes.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think of those in a different category.
Yeah, that's true.
But with, like, The Prestige especially, you definitely notice more.
It's true.
I want to watch that movie again.
We should do it.
It's kind of scary, though. I remember when we first watched it being kind of like,
It's another, kind of like this movie. It's not like, none of these characters are particularly great or good, but it's just an interesting story and exploration of what would we do if we found ourselves in this scenario.
Yeah.
Unlike Batman, who's, well, he's not a great moral character in some ways, but, like, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, like, the main character in Interstellar is a good guy.
Yeah.
He's, like, a genuinely good person.
It's true. Probably one of the only good people.
I know, because what's his name in Inception's not really, like, super great.
Well, he's not, now that I think about it, he's not bad, but, like, there's no particular moral drive aside from, he wants to see his kids again, which, it's similar theme in Interstellar, but, like, he's very deeply flawed, whereas I think Matthew McConaughey's character, while flawed, isn't as deeply flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Everyone wants to see their kids again.
I know.
Wouldn't you want to see your kids again?
I would. All right, so now we move into the final category, content, where the more negative aspects of the story, or just things in it against the more positive aspects, and just the overall story. Was it necessary? Was it offensive? Etc. etc. On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this and why?
Well, I would probably give it a... Well, okay, so as far as accessibility to, like, families, I would give it a 1.
Okay.
Because of the content. Now, if one were to, like, filter it and stuff and, like, edit certain parts out, I would definitely give it, like, a higher rating. But, like, itself, probably a 1. Really? Yeah. Totally, because, like, the subject matter is not inherently, it's not, like, ridiculously disturbing, like, like Shawshank Redemption or something, like, just, like, disturbing, violent, creepy stuff. Like, there's not really a lot of that in there. But as far as, like, my comfort levels, I wouldn't want to, like, just sit down and, like, watch this movie in its completely, like, naked state, pun intended. So, yeah, I would give it a 1. And I think, so that's mostly for the nudity and the sex scenes, which I am morally opposed to. Language, I think there are a couple F-bombs.
Yeah.
But
there's never, like, a moment in, like, Memento where it's, like, a 2-minute rant
no,
where there's an F-bomb in every other sentence.
No, the language definitely doesn't stand out to me that much. Like, there are a couple, but, like, I feel like, for me, if a child is mature enough and old enough to watch this movie, like, I don't think hearing that language would necessarily be, like, a big deal. Yeah. But the other scenes are definitely, in my opinion, a big deal. But they are easy to close your eyes through. Yeah. They're pretty easy to just avoid. Like, I mean, obviously. And even, like, if you... watching it a second time, the dialogue in those scenes aren't really that important to the storyline. Mm-hmm. So you could even skip them.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I think if we were to watch it a third time, we probably would just skip it because it's like...
Yeah.
It's better than sitting there for a couple minutes with your eyes closed.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I would give it a 2 because while the film did have... It only had 2 scenes, which my argument's always been, for a 3-hour movie, 2 3-minute scenes, you know, they're not ideal.
Was it only 2?
Yeah.
Or like everything was fully shown?
Yep.
Okay.
There was there was when he first meets said character, and then when it was brought up when he went back to see her a second time after Los Alamos, or in the midst of Los Alamos, which got him into a lot of trouble.
Yes.
As the film tries to make very clear. I think that I'd give it a 2 because, one, they're very isolated. They're easily avoidable, as we established. I can understand why they were included, like what the motivation behind them were. Do I think they were completely necessary? No. Like, there are other ways this could have been done, but I can understand from a storytelling standpoint why they tried to do it.
That begs the question, would you ever put those kind of scenes in a movie that you made?
No, because I don't think that it's necessary. I feel like you'd have to have a really hard time being able to justify that. And if someone
at least as a Christian, like I don't like as a
this wasn't made by Christian.
No,
so
as a Christopher Nolan, like whatever.
Like you're gonna do whatever, and
we don't hold him to the standards that we have.
So that's why I wouldn't give it a 1. Like, the language isn't that bad. There's no violence. It's intense. There are some scenes I've mentioned that are very haunting. But like, if you know where these scenes are, you can avoid them. Like, and kind of knowing why they're put in there, I think a 2 is what I would give it. I think a 1 for me, I've told myself I wouldn't watch a movie. My goal is to never watch a movie that's a 1. Like, you wouldn't want to watch a movie that's a 1. Like, if there was a lot more in this and it was like just everywhere, then like, ooh, yeah, I don't think we should be watching this kind of thing. Or if the film just had lots of it in there unnecessarily and it wasn't adding anything to the plot, then I would give it a 1. But I think a 2, like, it's not necessary. It's an R-rated adult film. It's not a kid film. It's not a family film. It's a very intense subject, and I think the parents being discerning with older teenagers can, navigate those how they will. But those are my feelings about it. And the reason I feel like I can lay there comfortably is that, we were going to go see this in theaters, right? It's like, oh, it's got these scenes. Should we do it? Should we not do it? And, I thought about it for a long time because I did want to see this movie, but I had to be able to, like, not necessarily, like, readjust my moral framework so much as just kind of look at it for what it was and be like, it's not ideal, but we're mature adults who know how to navigate this. There's not a lot of it. It's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
It's, so those are my thoughts.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll give it a 2 then if that's your mindset for rating it. Because, like, I don't know, 1 just doesn't sound that intense to me, but, like, 2.
Yeah, 1 is like, ew, I don't think we should be watching this kind of thing in my mind. Like, 2, even then I give it a soft 2, but I still give it a 2. Like, 3, maybe borderline, but...
I would probably give it a 2. Yeah, I'll give it a 2 also. I will say also there are some scenes that feature suicide. Possible suicide.
They're more like flashbacks, yeah.
And then also infidelity is mentioned multiple times. Implied fidelity.
And Oppenheimer just kind of had affairs here and there, and, it was a womanizer.
Which wasn't really shown that much, but he was.
He was.
Yeah, so I would say that's probably all as far as content goes. And, like, there's no violence other than the suicide scene, which kind of, I guess, would fall into that.
Yeah.
And then, there. I feel like there was one more thing.
You haven't seen it, but there's the haunting scene in the auditorium, and they kind of show someone's skin like peeling off with the supposed atomic blast.
But that wasn't really that graphic, though.
No, it was just kind of like...
I remember seeing... I kind of think I did see it on my fingers, that part. I don't remember it being, like, super graphic. It was kind of just, like, paint peeling off.
Yeah.
But it was still, like,
Yeah. So, yeah, it's an adult movie. It's an adult movie. And, you know, I think that even if those scenes weren't put in there, it's still like, it's not one for young audiences. It's I'd say an older teen movie, just because the subject matter is so dense, and younger people just wouldn't appreciate it.
No, I can't see anyone younger than 16 at the youngest really appreciating it at all. And like, if for me, I would definitely have to have I'd have to have a 16-year-old first, and then know that 16-year-old really well. Yeah. Before I would be.
And if they wanted to, you know, you'd get to know them, or your own child in this case. You know them, know their character, express your, we don't do this, we don't see these things because we believe this, and make that decision from there. Like, it's unfortunate that it's a situation you have to navigate, but this is real life, and this is turning into a very moral conversation.
I would say if we were to have kids, and we were ever to be like, okay, so this year we're learning about World War II history. We'd like you to watch Oppenheimer, just kind of like as an interesting like conversation about the topic. If I would go to VidAngel, filter out the nudity and the sex and the F-bombs, and then I'd be like, have at it, watch it. Not like elementary school child, but like even a younger, like mid-teen, probably, if it was filtered for those particular things.
Well, I wouldn't let them just like have
No, that was kind of a joke. I wouldn't just like let them like watch it casually by themselves. I would sit down and watch it with them.
This is a movie to watch and have conversations about.
Go lock yourself in your room with your laptop and watch Oppenheimer filtered on VidAngel.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I know. That's a very weird thing to do.
It's true. So like, we're going on this particular segment probably way longer than we ever have.
I know.
But like, okay, well, I guess we'll bleed right into our next. Just like overall rating, would we recommend it? Why would we not? Does it get the stamp of approval from Good Film Hunting? What are your immediate thoughts? Because you've kind of already expressed some of them, but like, you're sitting down with someone talking about this movie. How would you approach recommending or not recommending it? Would you even bring it up in conversation if someone brought this topic up in general and hadn't seen this?
I would say, I've seen Oppenheimer before. Would I recommend it? Like, does it make me excited? Do I want to like tell people about it? No. Do I find it interesting? And would I be like, if someone's like, I'm thinking of watching it, I would be like, okay, yeah, you should do that. Here's what you can expect, like, in vague terms. I thought it was interesting, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. But yeah, for me, and I know you're gonna probably have a different answer. Like, I don't get excited about the same things in movies that you do.
That's true.
And so, like, for me, if a movie was like really like heartwarming and like wholesome and all that stuff, I'd be like, this was so good. It made me feel so many things. You should totally watch it. Or like if it was like really deeply impactful, then I would. But yeah. I don't approach movies in the same way. Yeah. And they don't necessarily impact me on as deep of a level as like a book would.
Right.
So, yeah, if it was a book, maybe I would be more likely to just
read American Prometheus.
I could. But yeah, I would say can I give my final rating?
Sure.
I would say I would give this movie a 4.5.
Okay.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very thought-provoking and very beautiful and very well acted and well casted and well written.
It just wasn't warm and fuzzy.
It just wasn't warm and fuzzy.
Missed the warm and fuzzy.
It wasn't girly enough for me. So
not enough pink.
So 0.5 out of that. So maybe I should have watched Barbie first and then watched.
You did watch Barbie. Well, no.
Like I should have watched them back to back.
Ago.
Yes. No, Barbie is not a movie I would be like, ooh, we should watch it. No.
No, because that one's just controversial for
I
the
know,
sake
and
of
just
being
kind of dumb too,
controversial.
honestly. But anyway, yeah, I would give it a 4.5. It was a very good movie. Well done.
Okay. I think I will give it a 5, as you probably already predicted.
know.
I know. Surprise.
Classic.
Classic me. I don't know if I've given anything a 5 before. Maybe. No, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes got a 5.
Klaus got a 5, I think.
It's true. Yeah, I guess so.
We are coming up on the Christmas season.
Oh,
We need to
right.
watch that again. See which.
Or maybe not, because we watched it like 5 times last year.
Did we?
Yes,
Oh.
I did at least. Yeah, I give it a 5. I think I would very eagerly recommend this to people, but obviously I would throw in the caveat, it has these elements in it, and I just want to make you aware of that because I don't know how you navigate those, if you navigate them, because some people, don't care, whatever. But, my moral conscience says to make you aware of those things, and if you're okay with navigating that and whatever, it's a very, very well done film. It's taking advantage of just cinema in its modern age and all the tools that we have at its disposal. And not just being a visual spectacle, but being a very, very thought-provoking story and just exploration of human nature. And it does leave you feeling things. It doesn't leave you feeling warm and fuzzy things, but it just leaves you kind of feeling like, wow, we live in a very interesting world with a lot of interesting moral quandaries. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's a very good film, and I would very easily recommend it to anybody who is interested. But the final question is, does this get the stamp of approval? Yeah, I think you should go first, because you know my thoughts. You know what I'm going to say already. Or maybe I should go first because of that.
No, let me think. What do we have on the list so far? Do we not really have an official list?
We don't have an official written list. A few examples would be Life is Beautiful. What else? The Planet of the Apes movies. Catch Me If You Can. Klaus. Just as a few examples. Fiddler on the Roof, maybe?
Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah, I will say yes, it does.
Are you saying that for my sake?
I'm saying that for your sake.
No, what are your personal...
No, I genuinely think it's a really well done movie. Like, it's a really good movie. Like you said, I think it would belong on the culturally and artistically significant register. It's just not my favorite type of movie.
So is it one you would revisit?
Yeah, I would watch it again. I enjoy it. It doesn't like get me like super excited and amped up like it does you. Mm-hmm. So we agree that it's a great and very well done movie. We don't necessarily agree on our emotional response to it and just like how we feel about it.
Right.
But I'm willing to concede and give it.
You don't have to concede.
I don't have to.
If you don't want to.
No, I do. I mean, yeah,
Like yeah.
Like yeah.
Like yeah.
Like totally.
Like totally. Yeah, I mean, I've already explained all the reasons why I think it should be.
You just be repeating yourself at this point.
I know, right? I feel like this was one that could easily become a yearly rewatch. I feel like it's kind of, yeah. It's a dense movie. It's kind of weighty. It's got some elements in it that we're not proud of.
That we're not proud of.
But like, I feel like for me, this is kind of like Lord of the Rings level of just like, you could easily go back to it and just love it more and more and more and more every kind of time you see it. Yeah. It's not like, Lord of the Rings is different and very unique in its own right, and nothing will ever be Lord of the Rings. But like, this is its own category. Yeah. Like, I could easily go back and watch this once a year and probably love it all the same.
Yeah, see, I don't share those same sentiments with you, but I think that it deserves to be on the list.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our Oppenheimer review. This is probably our longest, I'm going to guess this is our longest review yet. War for the Planet of the Apes was the longest.
What time is it right now?
It's almost 9.
Wow, yeah, this is definitely going to be our
I think this is going to be our longest, for obvious reasons. But yeah, thank you all for stopping by, listening to our take on this movie. Let us know what you thought in the comments. We hope you've been inspired to just have more conversations around the movies you're watching in general. And until next time, good film hunting.